Hey Taurus, how you doing? It's me, Lauren B. Welcome to the Untitled Tarot. As always, Taurus, these readings are timeless. So whenever you happen across this, I trust when you're supposed to find it. And all 12 of the zodiac sign readings, they're all for you. They're all part of the collective story. So go by the title or go by the timestamp. Don't feel like you're stuck to just your sign. You don't want to miss anything that you're being guided to. And there will be an extended to your reading. The link for that is going to be the top one in the description box. I'm going to use two different decks for you today, Taurus, which normally I don't do, but I'm going to use the Oracle of the Mystical Moments, and I'm going to use the Rider-Waite Tarot for you. You, how do I want to put this, Taurus? You gotta, what is it, shape up and ship out? You gotta shape up and ship out a little bit right now, and it's not anything that you're doing wrong necessarily. We'll break it down, Taurus. We'll break it down. Let's pray before we do anything. Father God, thank you for bringing me and my Taurans in today. I ask that you give me wisdom, clarity, and discernment to deliver these messages accurately. For Taurus's highest of love, light, alignment, and assignment, we praise you, we love you, we thank you always to the utmost high. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So Taurus, when I say shape up and ship out, it's the idea that you are overextending yourself to other people to the extent that it's having like a negative impact on you and the work that you actually have to do for yourself to move yourself to the next level. There is this idea of like you put some of the things that you've been working on a little bit like on the back burner, a little bit on halt. And there is this like irritated feeling. Something's like not fair. There's something that is not fair happening to you. And it feels like you are trying to help someone else, maybe a group of people, maybe a family situation, try to deal with something that you did not create, and it really actually isn't your portion to try and solve. They're giving me this vision. They've been giving me this vision for almost an hour before I started your reading, and it's the idea of, have you ever had something like in your house overflow? The sink overflows, or like the septic overflows, or like a bathtub overflows. And there's this idea that there's this space over here where there's all of this overflowing water. And I see you running over with like buckets, trying to scoop up the water and like toss it out the window, trying to help someone else, almost like dig themselves out of their own hole. But meanwhile, over here, this is your portion, and your portion is dry. It's not overflowing. It's not flooded. There's nothing wrong. If anything, there might even be a couple cobwebs because you've spent so much time. It's interesting how they're giving that to me, because you've spent so much time trying to help other people dig themselves out of their hole. Even if it's just from like with all the water, it could even be just like from an emotional aspect, like being trying to be an emotional support to someone or to a group of people at the expense of basically you becoming almost like a crutch or like an energetic sponge. Like you're absorbing so much of their own stuff because they can't withstand the weight of it. And it's almost the idea that like they have to learn how to swim. Some of these people have to learn how to swim, and they're giving me this vision of like you have somewhere to go. It's like a job interview. Like you have like, it's almost like you're all dressed up and you have someplace to go, but you're getting distracted from going where you need to go because you're busy helping other people dig themselves out of their own hole. By the time it's finished, you're all dirty, and now you can't go where you need to go. You can't go to your job interview. You can't go to your appointment because you look like hot trash now, because you're covered in other people's garbage. Does that make sense? And it's like offensive. There's something like offensive about this energy. And it's the fact that like you're so warm-hearted, like you're so generous. There's like this real charitable energy that like you want to admit, like you want to give to other people. You want to be healing to them. You want to be supportive to them. But it's almost the idea, honestly, that they don't even notice the negative impact that it's having on you. And if they do, they don't care. To be perfectly frank with you, it's just like completely like over their head, and so that's part of this shape up and ship out kind of energy. You need to shape up, like you need to get yourself back in order so you can ship out, because you have things to go, and you have to trust that all people are God's people and they are his responsibility. They're his responsibility, because look, you have the gardener and you have pure nature out in reverse. The gardener literally talks about your own personal plot of land, what you are trying to pursue, what you are trying to achieve, the person that you're trying to grow into. And the thing that's really interesting about this card, if you look at it in the book, it talks about needing to weed. that in any garden, there are going to be little weeds. There's going to be little critters. There's going to be things that are going to try and infiltrate your garden, right? And if you leave them, if you don't pluck them out, pull things out of your energy space, separate yourself from some things, create boundaries when you need to create boundaries, say no sometimes, right? There's this whole energy across the collective of like, yes, man. We kind of need to start saying yes to more things because we've said no to so many. But for you this week, you got to be like a no way man kind of person, because there's an energy of it's the fact that you're not weeding things out that need to be weeded out. You're letting things grow, and they're showing me jellyfish. They're almost becoming like an invasive species to whatever it is that you're trying to grow in your personal spiritual plot of land, and it's preventing you from blooming with this pure nature. It's preventing you from coming into your pure nature, right? And it's actually interfering with it because your pure nature is to be really loving, right? To be really comforting. There's no one in the world that's more comforting than a Taurus. I have so many Tauruses in my life. I love Taurans so much. There is no one who will be the first one there for you. There is no one else who will be way more comforting than a Taurus, right? But this is also card number 7, and 7 talks about perfection, being on the right path, that sooner or later, it's like you're so covered in everyone else's like dirty water, their muck, that it's actually pulling you off the right course for yourself. And it's actually creating like a hardness. It's creating some kind of like hard film on top of you, which is making you maybe a little bit irritated or maybe a little bit defensive. But I think it's almost an aspect of your shadow coming out, not out of control, but actually coming out as your alarm system. Because when your shadow is trained, it does act like an alarm system and say, you know what? Enough's enough. Like, this is too much. Like, this has gone too far and this is not my problem. And that makes you feel bad at some level because you're like, well, I just want to help. I don't want to say, oh, it's not my problem. Like, I don't want to be an asshole, but sometimes you have to be. And, you know, and it doesn't make you an asshole, or it doesn't make you a jerk or a mean person or uncharitable or unloving or unsympathetic to tell people that sometimes they have to clean up their own mess, right? Because you have things to do. You have places to go. It reminds me of that scene in Practical Magic, which always seems to come up for you guys, for whatever reason. And there's that scene in the movie where the daughters are having breakfast in the morning, and the two older sisters, they come downstairs and they're wondering where the aunts are, right? Because the aunts are like this protective, they clean up messes, they take care of everything, they are the solution to all of the magical problems that are going on for them, right? And they're in a bit of a pickle. And they're running around the kitchen. They're like, oh my God, like, we have to find the aunts. Like, we have to find the aunts. Like, we need help. And the two little daughters go, oh no, they left. They go, what do you mean the aunts left? They go, they left. And they told us to give you a message. Clean up your own mess. And now they have to become more resourceful. Now they have to become more self-sufficient. Now they have to clean up their own mess, dig themselves out of their own hole, right? So there is something to that. And I feel like very much like, I feel very protective over you right now because I feel how it's pulling on you. Like, I just want to help. And, you know, that could be, you know, not for nothing, Taurus, but, you know, there could have been situations growing up for you where you felt like you were all on your own, where you felt like people didn't have your back. You couldn't depend on anyone. You could only depend on yourself. And so the idea of you not infiltrating or you not going above and beyond to help someone and them feeling that way triggers something in your inner child that's like, but there was no one there for me, right? But at the same time, there is this sense of, because of that situation, you also learned how to be like a warrior. You learned how to be a fighter, right? And now you have the ability to be strong enough to go forward and help people and maybe bear some of their weight sometimes when they can't do it for themselves. But there is something that sometimes when we overextend ourselves to others, we can prevent them the sense of confidence and pride that comes with having to be resilient, having to be self-sufficient. There is a lot in there. There is absolutely a lot in there. For some of you, this has to do with your partner. Like your romantic partner, like there were goals and dreams that like you had for yourself that you put on the back burner in order to help them accomplish more of what they wanted, right? So maybe you stopped going to school, maybe you stopped working, so that way you could go and you could be a greater support to them in the pursuit of their own dreams. But what about you, Taurus? It's like, what about Taurus? What about Taurus? Also, Breakfast Club? Okay, something's coming in about the Breakfast Club. Okay, maybe that's a movie some of you need to watch, or you just watch, or that's some kind of Easter egg for you. But the card you have after that is the Rose Garden. This is all about turning the other cheek, right? It's like where you are. Do you see kind of how these colors are a little bit more muted, right? It's almost even like a cloudy day. It's a bit of like a cloudy day right here. But in this Rose Garden, like the area that you're supposed to be walking through, it is lush. And it is vibrant. It's like technicolor. And this little parrot on your shoulder, parrots also talk about, they talk about like gossip, people with their little 2 cents, throwing things in, people in your ear, maybe making you feel guilty, pulling on your heartstrings. Well, if I step away and I tell everyone to deal with their own stuff and I go back to doing what I'm doing, going back to my super technicolor life, right? My goals, my dreams, my ambitions, they're going to talk shit about me. Like, they're going to have something to say. They're going to be like, Taurus doesn't care. Taurus is on their high horse. Look at Taurus over there living their best life when the rest of us are over here doing shit all. It's that kind of thing, right? But the advice in this card is, one, this is card number 8. 8 talks about infinity and infinite potential, but it also talks about karmic cycles. One, it's the idea of you have to turn the other cheek and let other people deal with their own karma, right? Because there is this sense that some of the holes that these people dug themselves into, sometimes we end up in situations so that way we can sit on our faith, learn how to have more trust in God. So we all have wilderness seasons. It's that kind of thing. However, for some of you, these situations, these holes that were dug by these people, they were holes that were unnecessarily burrowed. They did not need to happen, but these people did it because it was them enacting aspects of their karma that they had to re-go through, relearn, re-participate in. So that way, sooner or later, they'll get the hint, right? And you and I both know, right, because I read for very gifted and talented people, that you will go through a karmic lesson again and again and again and again until you finally get the point of it. And if that's what they're doing, then that's what they're doing, and that's not on you. So it's the idea of you really need to turn the other cheek, and you need to let other people deal with some of their karma. You cannot be like Captain Save a Person. You can't be doing that. I mean, you can, but it's not serving you in your highest and best good, right? And like, you do have enough strength, you have enough energy, you have all this stuff to share, but what is the detriment? Because it's the idea that it's becoming more harmful to you in the pursuit of your dreams, and you are providing help for them, if that makes any sense. And if any of these people, if part of the fear or the anxiety you have about kind of pulling back and withdrawing some of your energy and your assistance is them saying, gossiping, hey, Taurus, like, you're living your best life over there, but, you know, what about everyone else over here? You also have to remember, and feel free to remind them, you could tell them I told you that God's got enough blessings for everyone. There's no, like, quota on the blessing chart for Jesus. He has enough blessings for everyone. He does not run dry. So if someone has a problem with you doing well, advancing, and they're not, you tell them to take that to the good Lord upstairs, right? Where are my blessings? What's going on with that? Because he might say, hey, you need to purify your heart. You need to refine your attitude. You need to step more into faith. It's that kind of thing, right? That's what the wilderness season really does for people. It does it for us, right? You're tested in the wilderness. You're rewarded in the palace. So if you're being rewarded with blessings and opportunities and the ability to advance, that's a beautiful thing. That's a testament to how good God is to us. And it's also a testament to the fact that you've followed your guidance. You've worked the program. You've done your shadow work. You're hanging out with your inner child. You're balancing your masculine and your feminine energies. You're planning, you're preparing, you're walking out on faith. So that's what they need to do too. There's a blueprint. Everyone's journeys are very individualized, right? They're very personal, and how God feels about everyone in that personal relationship is very private, but the blueprint is all really the same. The blessings and the miracles and the wonders, they all start out really, really big for everyone, right? Right when you kind of begin your journey, just kind of let you know, like, hey, the magic's real. And then over time, your faith is stretched, right? It's part of that spiritual maturity. It's part of that spiritual posture. And then sooner or later, we all end up in a pit. We all end up in a wilderness season where the only thing you can live on is your faith. It's the only thing that keeps you going. And the promises get bigger, and then the blessings get bigger, and that requires more faith. It requires more trust. It requires really taking these leaps of faith all the time, not just waiting, but faith in motion and listening to your intuition. And you've done that. You've done that, and they have to do it too. They have to do it too. So let's pull out the Rider-Waite and let's see what's going on. This Gardener. Yeah. So you have the 5 of Swords over this Gardener card, which is really telling me that there is like a lot of mental conflict that you're having. There is this superhero complex that some of you might be going through, that I know I could take care of all of my stuff, and I can go and I can help them, and I can take care of them, and I can finish my emails, and I can work, and then I can do this after work. And it's the idea of continually like stretching yourself to like the absolute brink, like the absolute limits, to a Swords, and you don't even realize, again, there's this defensiveness, like, no, I can take care of my stuff, and I can go help them too, like, it's fine, it's absolutely fine. No, there might even be people that may be asking if you need help. Oh, do you want me to go do it? Do you want me to take them there? Do you want me to do this for you? And you're like, no, like, I got it. There's almost a point of pride here, that you are so resilient and you can handle so much that you don't even need anyone's help, which is interesting, right? It's like these people are taking too much of your assistance, but you're also not allowing yourself to sit in any of your own feminine energy to receive assistance for yourself. So there is this level of like really overextending yourself, like past the point of your limits. But the 2 of Swords is also a little bit blinded to not realizing that you're past your limits. It's that idea that, you know, sometimes we burn ourselves out, but we don't realize that we're burnt out for like a week after the fact, and then we have to take 4 days off, and then we get sick or we get run down and we got to call out of work, and it becomes a thing. It becomes a thing. Knight of Wands. There is this impulsive kind of thing. Some of you, it almost feels like you have this inclination to be like, no, I'm not going to go. And then feeling as somehow that's irresponsible. Sometimes the Knight of Wands in reverse comes through a little bit of like an irresponsible energy. It would be irresponsible for me to leave them hanging. I know what it's like to feel like someone left me hanging, to feel like I didn't have anyone to lean on. That's irresponsible. Like almost a feeling as though you're going to incur bad karma from doing that, when in actuality, it's actually a moment of testing for you. How much do you trust God to take care of his own people? Like there is something in that. And also you being able to establish your boundaries as well. And that boundaries aren't a bad thing. Boundaries don't just apply to exes. We always talk about boundaries in terms of exes, but they also apply to friends. They apply to your boss when he tries to get you to stay after later and then not pay you for it. It applies to your family. It applies to your friends. It applies to everything. It's not just for exes. Eight of Cups in reverse over this pure nature. Like I said, there is an element of your pure nature that's getting buried deeper and deeper inside of you, because there is this kind of hard, gritty film that's being put on top of you, that with this 2 of Swords, again, you're a little bit blinded. You can't even see maybe necessarily like what it's doing to you, because you almost have to have this extra level of film on top of you in order to withstand the impact of all of the unanticipated problems and issues and that kind of thing. It's like trying to put on a hazmat suit to go in and start digging out these buckets of water for these people over here without even realizing that you're wearing it, not even realizing that you're putting on this extra weight for yourself. And the 8 of Cups is simply the card of journeying out, getting out there, going. It's the pursuit, right? And again, it's preventing you from blooming, evolving into the purest form that you are meant to, right? That is very purely loving and not more obligatory, if that makes any sense. And again, 7 is that perfect, and 7, 8, and they're both in reverse. So, you know, it's something about you are kind of delaying your natural progression of continuing to move out there and journeying forward into your new season, into your new cycle. It's a little bit of that. These people are stuck in a different timeline than you. And there's no amount of help that you can give them that is going to pull them into your new timeline with you. They have to go through that wilderness season. They have to learn those karmic lessons. They have to do the inner work, the shadow work, the inner child healing. They have to do all of that stuff, right? It's like you can give someone a notebook full of your notes, but at the end of the day, they got to take the test for themselves, right? You can't be going in, filling in their Scantron for them. It doesn't work that way. So there is an aspect, like I said, that you are kind of unintentionally preventing your progression forward. And they're pointing out to me that at the bottom of this deck, there's the moonwalk dance. And fours talk all about foundation, right? And how you are trying to be a little bit in between two worlds right now. It's like you have this big hot air balloon that looks like a moon, right? And it's almost the idea of it feels like you're trying to pull this down so that way you can stay a little bit on like Middle Earth, a little bit in between your new cycle and then the old cycle that maybe you used to be in and you found some kind of escape hatch and they're still stuck into. But it's the idea that you're supposed to be on a firmer foundation than you are right now, but you're afraid to allow yourself to ascend higher because it feels like you're abandoning these people on some level. And you aren't. You aren't. The Fool in reverse. The Fool in reverse. Right? It's not that you don't have faith that God is going to come through for you. There's almost an aspect of not having enough faith that God's going to come through for these other people, that like you have to like be the God force in their life, right? And maybe you're the most spiritual person around them. Maybe you're the most ascended. Maybe you have the most positive perspective and that's amazing. But sooner or later, like, you know, you got to teach a man to fish, but sooner or later he's got to grab a pole and he's got to start fishing for himself too, right? It's like Jesus and Peter in the boat. You got to let God invade their lives with grace and mercy and kindness and lessons and purging and refinement and all the stuff that you went through, right? If he'll do it for you, he'll do it for them too. But their path might be a little different. Maybe it might be a little bit more rocky. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer, but you know, it's almost saying sometimes the Fool in reverse comes through as like foolish. It'd almost be like foolish of you to assume that God wouldn't do it for them like he's done it for you. And you know, there's almost the idea of you realizing how painful and how chaotic it can be to really walk by faith and not by sight, and sometimes how foolish you actually feel and you wanting to make that process easier for them. But the thing is that you can't. Again, you could give someone a word, you could teach them, like you could give them all the best messages, all the best guidance, advice in the world, but they have to receive it. They have to plant it in their heart and let it grow inside of them so that way they can ascend. You can't do it for them, right? Nine of Swords in reverse over this Red Garden card. Again, as you just allow yourself to ascend into your actual, what is your rightful timeline, that is technicolor, that is lush, that is beautiful. And as you learn to allow people to just deal with things that they are meant to deal with, right? Because you could in some kind of way be preventing them from learning the lessons they need to, that will actually trigger them, become a catalyst for them to grow and evolve and ascend. And just learn to just turn the other cheek. And if anyone's gossiping, if anyone's saying anything, just learn to be like, you know what, talk to Jesus, try Jesus, don't try me. That kind of thing, right? That you're actually going to pull yourself out of stress and anxiety. Your energy is going to start returning to you, because the Nine of Swords, this guy's up in the middle of the night. He's all stressed out. He's all crying. He ain't rested. You know this man ain't sleeping, right? So this is also you being able to regain some of your energy. You might be going through things like nightmares right now. Maybe you don't normally have like nightmares, and that could be draining on your energy. So this is also the return of, honestly, by just learning just to give like a little less of a shit, Taurus, in the kindest, most loving and respectful way possible, just caring a little bit less, right? Putting God back in control of his own people, your energy is going to return to you. You're going to start sleeping better, right? And you need your energy because you got a lot of stuff to do. You got a lot of goals to achieve, right? And this is also going to help your anxiety as well, because you're not going to feel as though you are like a bad superhero because you can't save these people. Three of Swords. There is a sense of disappointment that comes from that, right? It's they're showing me like when you get on a cruise ship to go on vacation and you're like waving, or you're going on a trip and you leave someone like at the airport and you have to like wave them, and there's a part of you that feels bad, like I feel guilty that I get to go on vacation, like I get to go to this good place and they're still stuck on like the tarmac, they're still stuck on like the side of the road, and like I'm going, right? But again, you have to remind yourself, like if God will do it for you, he could do it for them. And it's better with this Tower in reverse. It's better that you just work through that feeling of disappointment and remind yourself that God has enough blessings for everyone. It's not like you got this quarter's quota of blessings and no one else gets anything. That's not the case, right? It's better that you feel that and you work through that, right? Because that is an aspect of your shadow work. Feel it and work through it so that way you avoid having unnecessary upsets or surprises, or the need for divine interventions and the need for divine detours Because if you continue on this path, it feels as though you are going to have a tower moment, because they're going to have to shock you in order to move you back to where you need to. And so by just accepting that like survivor's remorse, survivor's guilt, and allowing yourself to process it, it's going to help you a lot more. It's going to help you a lot more. Yeah, because 3 of Wands in reverse, this is not making the full preparations that you need to get forward on your mission. The 2 is when you choose the path. The 3 is when you prepare and then you move forward, which is why the 4 of Wands is when you put your bags down, start setting down roots, and you start kind of making the unions in the communities with the people around you, right? And this is usually because of self-doubt or insecurity, a lot of these feelings that we're dealing with right here. But with Judgment, there is a positive judgment on your life and on your path, and there's also a resurrection energy, right? So this is the restoration of the energy that you've lost. Any money that maybe you poured in order to try and help these people and dig them out of the hole. This is also you being able to receive your assignments and your opportunities and your doors and everything. Everything that you had to sacrifice through your own wilderness season, it is trying to be restored to you, but you just need to return these people back to God. And if you feel a little bit of survivor's guilt or blessing guilt, sit with it, process it. That's an aspect of yours. Shadow work, pray on it, ask for assistance, and then just leave the rest to God. Because look, you got the Ace of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck too. So, Taurus, I'm going to leave it here for you. I'm going to go over on, yeah, your reading's long. I'm going to go over on the Patreon, and I'm going to keep pulling cards for you to see what else, maybe coming for you on the other side. Maybe something to look forward to that will encourage you a little bit more. But I very much hope that this reading was helpful for you. If you need anything, all the decks that I use in the channel are in the description box. If you're interested in your extended reading, the April monthly readings, link for the Patreon right at the top. My email is in there for personal readings in case you'd like something more specific and curtailed to you. And all my social media links in case you want to find me on TikTok or Twitter, Instagram, any of that kind of stuff. And until I see you next time, I love you. You stay prayed up, and you stay blessed, and you stay sweet, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye.